talk show is brought to you by
Arganissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.arganissima.com. Arganissima, New York. Your beauty is our duty.
Holiday greetings, everybody. Hey, you know me, Dr. Cheryl Bryant Bruce, MD, the Celebrity Doc. And this show is brought to you by myself and my co-host, Hisham Helen Mati, Hurricane H. This is Chatters That Matters. Let's talk about it. Our runaway talk show that is here to educate, inform, and entertain you. We're here at the holiday seasons, and so we have a special show for you because during the holiday season, we like to focus on holiday safety. So tonight, we have brought in one of my very favorite firefighters, one of my very favorite people, and my very favorite little brother, Curtis Bryant Jr. He's here, Las Vegas firefighter. He is also a Las Vegas rapper and record producer. And he is a featured actor in the movie that is just coming out, just premiered this week, N-Men, The Untold Story. And it is the story, the history of skateboarding that came out of Northern California. Sacramento was the birth of the skateboarding revolution that has turned into a major sport today. Kurt is here to talk to us, though, about holiday safety, and we're going to hear more from him as a Las Vegas fireman. Kurt, tell us all about it.
First of all, greetings, happy holidays to you and everybody out there. Blessings. I hope everybody's safe, warm, and is gearing up for the holiday season. As my lovely sister said, my name's Curtis. I've been in the fire service for about 40 years. I'm about to wrap it up and retire, but I'm on here today as her guest to kind of just go over some safety tips so you and your loved ones can stay safe this holiday. The first thing I want to bring up is that during these holidays, we have a lot of people that come to our homes to either stay or just visit. And a lot of the visits, as we all know, turn into extended stays. And one of the things that I always tell people when you do have company over, whether they are scheduled to stay during the holidays or it just comes about staying, is go over your emergency plans, because we all know, things we're cooking, there's a lot of things going on, whether you're barbecuing, whatever you're doing, but go over your emergency family plans with your guest. Hopefully you've done that with your family, so your family knows in case of emergency, whether it be fire, gas, whatever it may be, they all know how to get out. First of all, how to safely egress your home, apartment, or wherever your party. If you've rented a space, a hall or something, make sure you go over your points of egress with all your guests to keep everybody safe. Especially in your home where there's different areas, doors that slide, things like that. We always don't, when we are home, adhere to things like fire codes. So very often we may block an exit or block a window. So that point of egress will be cut off. So as your guests arrive and before, they get settled, let them know, hey, these are the back door, the front door. These are windows that can be used as possible egress. I know it's kind of dry, and it's something we usually don't do, but as a society, we've been Americans, we need to do that because you just never know when an emergency is going to occur. So you let them know where your exits are, where your windows are, if your windows have locks or if you have storm shutters or things like that, how to exit. Because if you're not a trained firefighter or someone that's used to being put into those predicaments, when it all comes down, it's your adrenaline's high. It's very confusing, even if you are the homeowner, let alone if you're not the homeowner and you're unsure of hallways and exit routes. So go over that with them. Along with that, once they do safely egress the home, the hall, apartment complex, wherever you may be having your event or company come, make sure you all understand and have agreed on a meeting place. Because as firefighters and emergency responders like myself show up, our main goal is life safety, and then property conservation close second. With that being said, as soon as we go on scene, we're going to ask the homeowner or whoever might have called in the fire, has everyone been accounted for? That's our main thing. That's a great starting point on how we are going to do our operations from then. If there's a missing child, a missing person in your house and no one's accounted for, the seat of the fire is going to take secondary as our initial rescue search for you. So we're going to ask, is everybody accounted for? And where was the last known location of that person that is not accounted for? That is going to dictate as we make entry to the facility if we are going to go right, which we call a right-hand search pattern, or if we are going to go left, which we call a left-hand search pattern, to quickly as possible locate you. So these are just a few tips that are very important this holiday season.
So, Kurt, is it fair to say that it's probably a good idea as your guests are coming in to get a head count?
Oh, always know how many people are in your home, and that includes pets, because right. There's nothing that spoils a holiday more than losing a pet, especially in a catastrophic fire. Our pets are our people, just in fur form. So you always know how many people are in your house, always know their location, as well as pets.
Okay, excellent. Now let's talk about in the unfortunate event that you do have a fire in your home. It's important for everybody to escape, but we know that a lot of times people don't die from the fire, but they die from smoke inhalation. So how do people deal with that? You now have a fire in the home and there's smoke. What should they be doing to make sure that they can egress safely?
You're correct on that, sis. The most common deaths from fires is the uptake of combustible particulates. Most modern homes nowadays are built fire code to have fire alarms in their building. In their homes, they'll have a fire detector, and a lot of homes now are built with carbon monoxide detectors. Mm-hmm. So just backtracking a little bit, regardless if you're going to have company or not, make sure you keep, if your fire detectors aren't hardwired to your electrical system to your home and they are merely battery operated, make sure you keep up with that battery. Don't wait for it to start chirping to replace your batteries. Make a mental note, make a note in your phone, get your batteries and your detectors on a schedule, okay? And change all your batteries. That's rule number one, okay? And once there is a fire, say there is a fire, especially a kitchen fire, because 95% of the fires in the home are going to usually be kitchen fires, and then a close second of the cause is going to be electrical of some sort.
Right.
As a homeowner, be a responsible homeowner. You can go online, Amazon, any of the chain stores, Target, Walmart, and you can get you a portable fire extinguisher. The type of fire extinguisher I suggest everyone have in their home is an ABC fire extinguisher. And what is that basically used for? It's used for any type of combustibles. The A, which is the Class A combustibles, that's your cardboard, your papers, things of that nature. Your Class B will be your flammable liquids, which will cover any kitchen fire, as far as hot oil or anything like that. A lot of people will do fried turkeys and things like that. And so I always have a ABC extinguisher standing by. And the C of that is any type of electrical equipment that may catch on fire. There is another one, Class D, and that's for metals, heavy metals and things like that. But your standard ABC 6-pounder ABC extinguisher will do just fine. And you can pick those like I said, by any of the Walmarts, Targets, or online. It's a reasonable cost for a great deal of safety. So put those readily available in your home. If the fire is in its incipient stage, which is your beginning stage, once you purchase the fire extinguisher, read it. Learn how to pull the tab. Learn what it says on it. The instructions are pretty basic. It's like an AED. You read the prompts, it'll tell you what to do. But please, by all means, do that before it's time to fight the fire.
And just for our audience, the benefit of our audience, because some people aren't going to know what an AED is, can you explain to the audience what an AED is?
An automatic defibrillator. And that's more in the medical field, but an AED is just an automatic defibrillator that will auto convert your heart rhythms and give you a better chance just in case you have a myocardial infarction, better known as a heart attack. But buy the extinguisher, read the back, and with your family members, make sure they understand the proper uses of it, to include your kids, your children. Mm-hmm. I hope it never happens, but I've responded to fires where little ones were cut off from their parents, or in a panic, the parents got out of the house and children were left in the house. So, I mean, if there's a small fire extinguisher, which they come in 6-pounders, and show your child how to use it. Show your child how to use it and give him an honest fighting chance before we arrive on scene. Put it in an area that's readily available. Learn how to use it and know your limits. If that fire was a stove or gas fire and it has already caught the curtains and it's starting to advance past the incipient beginning stages, don't be a hero. Get out of the building. Don't even think about the fire extinguisher. But if the fire's small, it's on the stove or something, or it's in the garbage can, and you can safely and comfortably fight it. The fire's not taller than you. It's stationary in that room, hasn't consumed the room. Then go ahead and put the fire out, and then exit the building at all times. But that's what you buy the fire extinguisher for. So you might as well use it.
Now, how about if you don't have immediate access to the fire extinguisher, which I do recommend if you have a fire extinguisher. Again, he says that the most likely place that you're going to get the fire is in the kitchen at the stove. So that fire extinguisher is best near the place where you're going to get the fire. But in the event that the fire extinguisher is not readily available, or maybe the pin won't pull or whatever, can you talk about smothering fires or what we can do aside from throwing water on the oil fire, and why we don't do that? Can you tell us about that?
Yes. And before I do that, though, like I said, in situations like this, everybody's going to react different, especially if you've never been in that situation and you're not trained. It's always safe. It's no one wants to lose their home. But if you have a doubt that you can safely fight the fire, evacuate and make sure everybody's out of the house. On your way out the door, you yell fire, fire, fire. But if
that house is expendable, you are not.
Yes, but if you are comfortable and the fire is, let's say, contained to the stove, take a deep breath, don't panic, and look for the lid.
Mhm.
The fire in the fire triangle, the fire has elements that keep the fire going. All you do is cut off one of those elements, whether it's the fuel, whether it's the oxygen, you just cut off one of those elements. In this case, you would cut off the element of oxygen by placing the lid on top of the pan. It smothers the fire out. You have to think. Why we take a deep breath is because we see a fire, and what do we know? Water puts out fire. Okay, well, when you have a grease fire, you don't want to splash that cold water on that hot grease, because that's just going to make it pop up, and then the usually what happens is the grease splatters on you, the pan's on fire, the grease is hot, you drop the pan, now the pan and the fire go everywhere, and now the room becomes fully involved. So take a deep breath, realize what you have, put the lid on the fire, back away. The fire will go out, the fire will smother itself.
And turn the stove off.
Yeah, well, get away from the stove, let the fire die down, and then once it's clear, go back and turn the stove off. Now, in the event it's an electrical fire, same thing. The ABC, remember the C is for electrical fires. Let's go back to the grease fire. Let's say you don't have a stove cover, or you don't have a pot cover. And you did properly place your fire extinguisher readily available within arm's reach. It hasn't gone, once again, past its incipient stage of burning, so there's not a lot of combustible particulates in the air, so you can still breathe clearly enough to fight the fire. Grab your fire extinguisher, pull the pin, extend the hose, aim, and in a sweeping motion, sweep across the stove top. Okay? And that agent, once it cakes on that grease, it will smother that fire down. But once you extinguisher, once you start and decide to combat that fire, you completely discharge that extinguisher. Okay, you don't want to rekindle and have a false sense of security just that because the fire got knocked down. You completely discharge that fire extinguisher until there's nothing of that agent left, and then put the extinguisher down, back out of the home, let the on the way out, open up your doors or whatever of your point of egress, and let the smoke particulates clear out of the building. By then, we're on our way, and we can assess the damage, make sure there's no further progress of the fire. It didn't get up into any crawl spaces or any false ceilings. That's our job. As long as you're outside safe, then we're equipped with personal protective equipment to do our job.
Okay, now, Curtis, in the event the fire has gotten out of control, and say your way of egress is blocked by fire, what is the safest way to try and get through that fire? You've got heavy smoke, you've got fire. What is the safest way to try and get out so that you don't stay trapped in? I mean, you're gonna be at risk going through, but what is the safest way to get yourself out?
Well, at that point, because you just said that your points of egress are blocked. So at that point, you're not going to get out. So this is what you're going to do. We all know hot air rises, okay? Mm-hmm. So the good air, as we all know, is going to be lower. So the first thing you want to do is get down low and crawl, okay? You want to crawl closest and quickest to the furthest point of the fire. Okay, if it starts in the kitchen, you want to be in the back bedroom. Next, you want to be next to a window. If you can't break that window, which maybe it has storm shutters or something like that, you want to break it from the inside, even if you can't get out, and just scream at the top of your lungs, "I'm in here, I'm in here, I'm in here." Because when we get on scene and someone tells us there's 2 people unaccounted for, we are going to do, like I said, the right or left hand search pattern to find you. If when we arrive on scene, we can hear you screaming from the A side, B side, C side, D side of the building, that's as we make entry, that's where we're going to go first. So that's what you want to do. You want to get down on all four, crawl, because that's where the good air is, to the furthest point of the fire, and you want to get into the bedroom or whatever room. You want to close the door. If you can, wet a towel, put it up underneath the door, so as the smoke rolls through, it'll have another barrier. You want to break that window or breach the wall if you can, and scream, "I'm in here." If that's not possible, go into the bathrooms, do the same thing, get you a wet towel, put it underneath the door to stop the advancement of the smoke, and just get into the bathtub. Okay. Historically, these are the areas when we make entry as firefighters that we're going to look for you. The only other place that, when it comes into regards of children, is kids, when they get scared, they hide under beds. Mm-hmm. That's tough for us. Okay. But so you tell your kids from Jump Street, as part of your egress and emergency plan, tell them never to hide under beds. That makes it really tough for us to locate you, because we enter a facility, it's dark anywhere. We don't know your floor plan. So we're bumping into furniture, we're looking for you, we don't hear anything. Under beds is a really bad place for you, for anyone to hide. So get in a bathtub, get into the back rooms, close the door, wet rags, put them under the door, and keep low and keep it moving.
Perfect. Now, you talked about having a fire safety plan. How often should people go through a fire drill? Because I know that the drilling is really important, because I had the experience. I worked in Texas, and I had the pleasure of being one of the original physicians when the hospital was opening. So I was part of that planning. And as part of the planning, we had the fire safety planning, and we had our first drill. And I like to use this one as an example, because it was an example that even people who are trained in the excitement of the event, that can forget about their training. And some of the medical personnel didn't do very well, but some of the fire department even didn't do very well, because at the end of the mock scenario, they couldn't find two of the firefighters. And they're like, well, where did those guys get off to? Well, they had managed to get themselves into the elevator and got locked in the elevator when the elevator shafts closed for the fire. So, they didn't follow their usual protocol. And if people haven't drilled, which is why we have mock drills, then in the chaos and the excitement, the adrenaline's pumping, you're not thinking clearly, and you might not go through the scenario very well. But the more you drill, the more it becomes kind of rote for you. So how often would you say that we should drill to get to that point where we're likely to go on to automatic and just function the way we need to get through the situation before we fall apart? Because after the adrenaline is gone, we all fall apart. So how often do you think that we should drill our fire safety with our families?
Here's the thing. A lot of it depends on the aptitude of your family. I mean, I could tell you, do a monthly drill. I could tell you every 6 months. I could tell you, your family. You the layout of your house. If I live in a 2-room apartment, do I have to do a fire drill that much? No, because there's usually going to be only one exit, or possibly 2 means of exit. It depends on the complexity of your home. It depends on how many people. It depends on, do you live in a multi-story, 2-story home where people can be at different areas? There's so many variables. I would say initially, get together, work the plan out, get an extinguisher, and during that month of first putting this plan in, hold several drills to include, okay, there's a stovetop fire. Okay, in the third bedroom, there's a simple trash can fire. Do these scenarios so
Good idea.
everybody gets on the same page, and you can even include with that at that same time, okay, there's a trash can fire in bedroom 2, in Johnny's bedroom. There's an extinguisher there. It's put out. There's a heavy buildup of smoke because it caught the curtains on. And you can incorporate the egress drill with that fire drill. And
Like
what that does, it gets everybody in an automatic mode of thinking versus adrenaline and panic, because now you're going to think of fire, fire, fire. Okay, within a fire, what are my first steps? Can I breathe? Do I see smoke? Do I know where the fire is? Do I know where I'm at during this fire and where my closest egress is? You're going to start thinking like that. You're going to start thinking like a fireman. So, do 2 or 3 drills in the first, the month that you develop the plan, and get an extinguisher, And after that, like I said, it's the aptitude of the family involved, once it becomes a happen place that you know what you're doing, then you can every 2-3 months, every 6 months, whatever, go ahead. It just depends on your family and your situations.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Now, let me ask you this, because we've talked about stove fires and things, but again, we're here at the holidays, and let's talk about Christmas trees and candles. I know that when we were growing up, we had those big Christmas bulbs on the strands that got very, very hot and would set the trees on fire. And so now they've got the little twinkling lights that tend to stay cool. But people can, I think, get a little bit over secure with that, because it is still an electrical cord. So, what are some of the things that people can do to keep the home safe when they're using a Christmas tree and Christmas lights and the candles? I mean, it's not just Christmas time, it's Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, and a lot of people are using candles and such.
Well, as far as Christmas lights now, the UL laboratory has, they've put stricter over the years, they put stricter regulations on Christmas lights and things like that. And now today, with everybody trying to be more conserve energy, most of those are going to be LED anyway. So you're not going to get the heat buildup. Even if your tree is paper dry, you're not going to set those trees on fire just because the way the industry's lights are made. But the main thing is take a common sense approach. Be vigilant. Put water under your tree. Make sure your tree doesn't dry out. Make sure your tree isn't close to a heating element. If you're heating the house with a buck stove, or if you're heating the house with a portable heater, make sure that's not in close proximity to your trees, further dehydrating and drying out the trees. The lights, you really don't have to worry as much. And the thing with most lights, which most people do anyway, in the year 2020, is they put all their lights on timers. So the Christmas tree's on and you set it for 10, 11, everybody turns in, the tree lights go off. But with them being LEDs, they don't heat up to that point anyway. And as far as candles, you got to take common sense has to come into play. You got to be vigilant to someone has to be the responsible adult to say, if we light the candles, we got to put the candles out, and don't place the candles in an area, look up, look down, and look around before you place that candle, to make sure that flame isn't going to be impinging on something through convection that it's going to eventually catch on fire. You have to take a common sense approach for you and your loved ones.
Now, at this time of the year, a lot of people in their decorating choice, they put the candles into a paper bag. Do you recommend against that?
You know what? Depending on your religion and things like that, that is a commonplace. and they have no bag. They have no burn bags. They have bags that are coated, the inside that are coated with kind of a fire retardant thing, just for
Right.
those purposes. Just like when you see the people during morning and they'll lay out the floating candles and they
Right.
have them. So make sure you get the products that support that. Don't get your everyday bag from the you out shopping someplace and put a candle in it and burn it. It's not gonna work out for you well. So once again, a little common sense has to be in play. Use the proper things if you're going to indulge in those type of ceremonies and things like that.
Mm-hmm. And they also have those little LED candle lights that you can put into the
Yeah,
bags.
you can do that. A lot of people are, especially if your family's from the old country, they're going to be more traditionalists, so
Mm-hmm.
they're going to use candles.
Right. Mhm.
It's just a common sense thing. We have to stop and think about the hazards of what we're doing and how we can prevent emergencies and accidents. It just takes a second of time of prevention uh, to save your life or have you enjoy your holidays without a catastrophic, event or an emergency occurring.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So again, if you can just sum that up, 3 to 5 points that these are
First,
the things that you
first of
really
all,
have to do.
as you're going into the holidays, take a walk around your home, get your decorating plan, your company plan, put the plan together, and have that in incorporated with your emergency egress plan. Uh, Look at your decoration displays. Make sure you're going to have a display that's safe. Make sure it's adequate for what you want to do, but don't what we call fire load something, and extension cord safety. I mean, most homes now are equipped with GFIs, ground fault indicators, and so if you overload that outlet, it's going to pop the GFI, turn everything off.
Okay, so we've been talking about fire safety and things that we typically are going to experience in the city and in the suburbs. We can still experience this in the city and in the suburbs, but out in the countryside, like where I was living before, a lot of the households actually use wood burning fireplaces to heat. And certainly anybody who has a fireplace around the holidays, if they are in the city, they'll want to crank up the fireplace because it's merry and it's atmosphere and the whole bit. So, can you talk about fire safety as far as fireplaces go and prepping fireplaces and managing fireplaces if we are going to have our fireplaces active during the holidays?
Um, all I can really say about that, I don't have a vast knowledge of that, but it take like the common theme I've been saying is take a common sense approach. Make
Mm-hmm.
sure the soot build up on your fireplace.
Mm-hmm.
Get it cleaned. Your chimney, make sure there are no birds' nests, and no birds roosting in your chimney. So as the smoke rises, it doesn't catch that bird nest on fire, causing the nest to fall down into the fire. Um, Make sure your flute works, that can open and close, and make sure obviously when you start the fire, open the flute so the smoke goes out of the chimney instead of into the structure.
Mm-hmm.
And just don't overload your fireplace where the embers are back burning out into your home or they are going in the proper place, and stack them to the back, and just fire safety basics for using a fireplace. Now, like my home, my residence is in Las Vegas, and all of our chimneys and new construction are of gas nature. So check your pilots. Um, and make sure that all your connections are good. If you turn it on and you smell gas, obviously there's, by moving furniture around and things like that, something has happened to that feeder line. So immediately turn it out and call your local utility gas company, and they can come out and do a safety check on your line all the way to the gas meter and beyond. So use basic training, basic things like that when you are using a wood fireplace, and you're going to leave it unattended because, like I said, some people have the regulars, and then some people have things like a buck stove. Don't fire load around that. So the heat will transfer over to packages, Christmas presents, anything like that, and cause fires, But it's pretty common sense and basic understanding of it's not. Yeah. And if you have little kids, it's smart to get those screens so they can't directly touch a fireplace or get close enough when in play to fall against, trip, or whatever, and get burned by the fireplace, or worst case scenario, fall into the fireplace.
Right. Absolutely. And also with pets, if you have pets around the fireplaces as well. So, and then
pets, sorry.
Go ahead.
Pets are a little bit smarter than us. So when they feel the heat, they're not going to go near it anyway,
Well, not necessarily so, unless I had a dumb cat, because that cat was intrigued by the fire. So.
Yeah, I've been a firefighter for 40-something years, and I've never had to respond on a cat or a dog that went into the fireplace, caught on fire, ran out, started to curt. Never. Never had to. So pets,
I mean, it wasn't a matter of the cat catching itself on fire, but it was batting at things, and if you don't keep that door closed, it will bat at stuff, and some of the stuff flying out, because especially as the fire is starting to build up, you'll get stuff flying out of the fireplace, and if the cat bats at it, or the cat's running by it and playing around it, it can move stuff around and set up fires. And I brought that one up because I did have the cat do that. So, and then the other thing though that is a big deal is that when you're cleaning that fireplace out and you put the embers in the bucket, and they may look like they're out, but the core, the inside of those embers can actually be quite hot still. So make sure that you don't put those around anything that could potentially ignite. Best to actually put water in them and make sure that they're completely out, because
that's what I was going to say. You always should take it one step further. Go to a safe place, pour water in there, and let it sit, and let the container cool down before you put it back in its place.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely. So those have been some great safety tips for fire safety, and that was the crux of what we wanted to talk about in this particular show. But because this is really a very special occasion, my brother is here in Sacramento. As I said, he's a Las Vegas firefighter, but he is here in Sacramento, and he is here in Sacramento specifically for the premiere of NMN, The Untold Story. So I'm going to give you a minute, Curt, to just tell us about the movie and the experience. Share that with our audience.
The Inman story is basically, in a nutshell, when skateboarding started in California in 60s and 70s, 80s, when it's really progressed from taking steel wheels off your sister's skates and nailing them to a board to actually
yes, he did do that.
Make a toy that we're going to make a toy that actually is for skateboarding. Um, Northern California and Southern California was right in the crust of that. I mean, you have the especially Southern California, because you have the beaches and what are the Beach Boys and all that? What are they known for? Surfing. Well, when there was no waves or it got too cold to surf or whatever, they still wanted to keep up their skills and practice their surf motions, so they would ride skateboards. Um, as skateboarding got to a point where it was profitable, skateboards started to advance. They went to trucks that could actually turn, and trucks are the things. Think of them as axles. The wheels attached to the trucks. The truck attaches to the board. Um, they started making trucks that could turn, so you could, do circles and then do turns on sidewalks. And then after that, the urethane wheel was soon invented, so now you could actually ride on the road with a smoother ride. And then it just progressed from that, used to be wood planks, and then it went on to laminated boards, to fiberglass boards, to it just went through a series of changes to try and make better equipment. And then the advent of PPE, personal protective equipment, helmets, gloves, wrist braces, shoes, everything started becoming the norm for skateboarding. Well, at that particular time, skateboarding had taken off in Southern California to the point where it became more of a commonplace sport. It wasn't just a rogue sport of kids just riding down safe sidewalks, running people off the sidewalks. It became an actual sport, and they started having competitions and things like that. Well, at that same time in Northern California, people moving and being transient, people started moving to Northern California that were in Southern California and started skateboarding. So skateboarding started to advance and get big there. So now on the West Coast of California, you have the sport of skateboarding. So as it went on and companies got involved and said, okay, this skateboarding could be lucrative. We'll start having amateur teams, start having professional teams. That's about the time when I got into skateboarding and was able to get some good mentors that helped me advance far enough to where I was able to join one of those teams. And the team and group of guys that I skated with were called the In-Men for the Northern men versus the Dogtown crew that was in the South. And over like a decade, the two teams, Northern California and Southern California, started engaging in competitions back and forth for superiority of California's skateboard title and scene. And I just happened to be part of the Northern men, which called the In-Men. And now we're all in our 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, the original In-Men. And I live in Las Vegas, they live in California, but they still go out on the weekends and skate to this day. Some of our older guys, Jamie Hart, Cliff Coleman, they're world champions and they still skate, and Cliff Coleman goes around the globe teaching downhill skating and slalom skating. So it's become big business, it's become really big business with big sponsors. A good friend of mine, which is probably known as the godfather of skateboarding, Don Bostic, was able to realize his 70s dream of actually getting skateboarding into the Olympics. And now it is an Olympic sport. So big shouts out to Mr. Bostic and his lovely wife, Danielle, because you did it and you've made skateboarding an acceptable global sport. And I'm honored to know him and his wife for being the trailblazers for that. But we do an annual Christmas party. And then there was a gentleman that would hang out with us in the early days that documented all this. And years later, we're looking at 20, 30 years later, he has put this collective of film and pictures together and has created a film called In-Men, The Untold Story. And I just happened to be in that film as one of those In-Men. And he's just going to tell the world our story versus the Dogtown guys on the southern end. So look out for that. It's called Inmen, The Untold Story. The film director is a great friend of mine, amazing director. His name is Jim Swaggart. And right now it's getting ready to do the film festivals, and then he's going to move it on into commercial theaters. It's a great film. I previewed it, and I had the honor of my lovely sister as being my date for the premiere. And it's a great film. There's highs, there's lows, and he documented skateboarding history very well. And it's a film for everybody. Not even if you're not a skateboard enthusiast, you'll enjoy this film.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I'm a bit of a skateboard enthusiast because my brother was a skateboarder and my son is a skateboarder. Both of them were on teams. So, I know a little bit about skateboarding. I am not a skateboarder. I have gotten on a skateboard. I can push one, but I'm not a skateboarder. But I found the film just absolutely excellent. It was a documentary. It gave an interesting history of skateboarding. And I mean, I've had skateboarding in my life, a good chunk of it, because my brother was very young when he started. And even still, I gained a significantly better understanding of skateboarding and a greater respect for it, both the art of it, the history of it, the culture of it, because it does have a very strong culture. And again, I'm the celebrity doc. This show is about health, and there is a health component to the skateboarding, because in the film they talk about how a lot of these guys were loners, or some of them were misfits, and skateboarding gave them a way of fitting in. It was something that provided them with mental health. And as I talked to my son even about skateboarding and have watched him over the years, I found that to be the case. A lot of these kids, it's like a balm for their souls, and they're passionate about it. But the interesting thing about the skateboarding is it's not just a passing, fleeting thing. A lot of these people do stay in skateboarding for life. I mean, my brother is still a young man, but he's on the other side of 50, and he's still skating. And you've got guys out there that are 60 and 70, and women out there as well, because skateboarding is really cool because it is all inclusive, all races, both sexes, ages, cultures. It's really pretty fascinating. And so, for that reason alone, it made the film very interesting. But even though it was a documentary, it wasn't your dry documentary, because it did have story to it, and it told the stories of different people. And there was even a very emotional component. And as I was telling my son about it, because he didn't attend the premiere with me and my brother, as I was telling him about it, for those of you who have seen Wakanda Forever, I actually kind of likened it to Wakanda Forever, because there was a tribute component in there. And I mean, there were touching stories, stories of growth, stories of people really bonding and supporting each other. It was an excellent film. It was an excellent film. And thank you so much, Curt, for inviting me. That was really a special moment.
Yeah, James really did an amazing job of putting that story together and telling the story, and also honoring the founders in that story. It all had to start someplace, and Doug and John O'Shea, really good friends of mine. John has passed on, let him rest, but may his soul rest in peace. But Doug is still with us, and it's an honor knowing him, because there's a historical component to that film that kids today, 20 down, that see the film will get a better understanding, because now kids that start skateboarding, all they see is the diversity. You know, you go to a skate park or you go down the street and you'll see blacks, whites, girls, boys all skateboarding. But back in that day, there was only two in that
You
era, as you
remember
see
it.
in the film, people of color that skateboarded. One
Yeah,
was
you
the founder,
remember.
Doug, and I was the other one. There was a few others sprinkled in, of Spanish descent. We had some Orientals, but it was mainly a Caucasian type sport, while uh, uh, and we were kind of, because I played all sports, but if you did skateboarding as a person of color, you were kind of looked at as, what do you know? Why are you doing that? And now I just get a smile whenever I drive past a skate park or see a group of people skateboarding, and the diversity of that group and the acceptance of that group. It makes me smile, because I realize uh, that I was a part of getting this sport to that level of diversity, and I'm pretty proud of that. I'm pretty proud of that, and Doug, the founder, is very proud of that.
Yes, and you should be. I mean, it is a big deal, and it has been a positive influence on the lives of a lot of young people, a lot of young people who would have otherwise been kind of lost out there, found something that they could embrace, that gave their lives meaning, that helped them to feel positive about themselves, and helped them to mature into productive adults. I mean, these were the kids that were kind of on the edge, and some of them, were getting into trouble. And now you run into these end men, and they're doing all sorts of things, and some of them are pillars of community. We've got firemen. They're doing all sorts of things, and actually, I have a funny skateboarding story, because I had gone to visit my brother in Vegas, and one of the things that the End Men were known for was skating pools, and there was a pool in Vegas, and it was empty, and so we went to skate the pool, and we went to skate the pool with it was a lawyer, right? The guy that went with us was a lawyer. It was you, me, a lawyer, and I think Devante went, and the police did eventually come along. And we were laughing and joking about it, because we were saying, oh, well, that would just be a great headline, doctor, lawyer, and firefighter arrested skating pool. And Cheryl Girl wasn't skating the pool, because I'm not trying to do that, because these guys actually, these pools are like 6 foot. And I mean, they even have higher drops than that. And they're dropping into these pools to skateboard. So, kudos to them for courage. That it takes a lot of brass to do that. And there are a lot of broken bones accordingly. But, I mean, skateboarding is the kind of a sport that, even though these guys are getting broken up, they're still going back to it, and they're still loving it. So, I think it's kind of like golf. It's addicting,
Well,
um,
for us, there's an element that, unless you're a skateboarder at a certain level, you're never going to get. Um,
oh, yeah.
for a lot of people that skate at a certain levels, it's escapism
Yeah.
to the utmost. I mean, because you got to actually think, we are going against so many of laws of physics.
Right.
As the globe is rotating in a certain direction, we're going the other direction. Sometimes you're going backwards. Gravity's trying to push you down. We're defying that. We're going up. You stand on a skateboard a certain direction. Skateboarders sometimes stand on it the other direction, and they're actually not on the planet, because they're actually rolling on the wheels. So
Right.
if you think about it, it's complete escapism of so many things that you skateboard at a certain level, as a lot of my friends are still skating, and it just takes them to a different realm. You know, they are connected to movement, and uh, it's almost like a Zen type thing with them
Yeah.
when they're doing that. You know,
Yeah.
I've got like people like Jamie Hart and Cliff Coleman. Like I said, they're going 70 miles an hour. You know, in Europe down a hill on a skateboard.
Yeah.
You are dialed in.
Yes.
You don't care about your mortgage. You don't care about anything. You are dialed in and you are along for the ride. And that's like Zen for them, you
Yeah.
know?
Now let's talk about the new skateboarding, because the skateboarding has changed over time, and that, I mean, the things that these kids are doing now are insane. I mean, it's art, it's beautiful, but it's crazy. Let's talk about that a little bit. What's that look like compared to what you all were doing?
Oh, it's you know what, as far as risk value, it's not any crazy. They go off rails, they do things like that. But
Yeah,
uh
yeah. Well, what
when
you were
you
doing was crazy. I mean, if you're on nothing but a board and you're going down a hill at 70 miles an hour, and
yeah,
this is soft flesh, and if it contacts that pavement, you're gonna do damage. And I mean, I've seen some gnarly falls on skateboarders, so that's
the,
crazy.
the skateboarding changed, whereas the street skaters don't do a lot of vertical, deep bowl riding like that we did. They do
Right.
street skaters where they do stairs and things, rails and all kinds of different like that. But I'm not going to take anything from them, because the tricks that they're doing on those rails and things are tough. You have to practice hours and hours. My hat's off to them.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I mean, it's like any other sport, ice skating, skiing, whatever. The sport's going to evolve. It's never going to stay stagnant. There's always going to be equipment that's going to let you do things out of bounds of what you used to do, and
Mhm.
that's what's happened to the sport. Which is
And it
good
is a
because
sport. It really is a
oh,
sport.
I just, like I told you, it's in the Olympics. It's a sanctioned Olympic sport. It's no,
Yeah.
So I mean, uh, and like a friend of mine said, in the movie, everybody dresses like skateboarders now. You don't see too many people dressed like ice skaters.
Right. And who are they watching in the Olympics? They're watching, like you said, they're watching the ice skaters and they're watching the skateboarders.
And usually it's the skateboarders.
That's
and,
right.
they're, and, and they're waiting for the half pipe of the snowboarders. I mean,
Right.
so uh, the sport itself is now mainstream across
Yeah.
the globe.
Yeah. Mainstream and ever evolving.
Yeah. And the Inmen had a part in pushing it historically, along with our brothers down south, the Zephyr team, Z Boys, the Dogtown Boys. And
Mhm.
I'm just happy that I was there to see it all unfold, and see a new sport created. And I'm just honored. I'm still friends with all those guys. We have a bond and a brotherhood that won't be broke, and we lose at this age. We're starting to lose them along the way, but it continues. A new crop of men right there along the way with us, with the same values of brotherhood,
Right.
and
And
so
that's
it's
what
good.
really struck me about it was the brotherhood. I mean,
Yeah,
you all are a very tight and supportive group. And
yeah,
it was really very touching watching it. It was a wonderful experience. And again, thank you so much for inviting me to that.
right. Yeah, it was the ultimate boys club. I
But
love
there
these
are
guys.
girls. There are
Oh yeah,
girls.
there are girls in there. There are girls, and we love our in girls that skate right alongside with us and skate at the same level as us. And uh,
Yeah.
it's not about sexism. It's not about, like I said, once you get to a certain level, then it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with that feeling. That feeling you get riding that wooden plank with wheels on it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was really proud of the ladies. I mean, they were stepping up and receiving awards right along with the men. And I mean, they were tough. They were gutsy.
Yeah.
So it's an impressive sport if you're really doing it. People think, oh, skateboard, they see someone pushing the board down the street on their way to work. Yeah, it's not that at all. It's a really impressive sport. So, again, if you get an opportunity to go and see the movie when it comes out, it is worth a watch. And don't just say,
James Swagger, Inman, The Untold
yep,
Story.
look it
Go see
up.
it. You'll
Mhm.
enjoy it.
That's right. And it is on both my Instagram, my social media, Facebook, and it is on Curtis's IG. And his IG tag is CurtBeasy. And you can also find him by just going to mine. You'll track through and you'll find my brother, Curtis Bryant. And he's at CurtBeasy. What's your Facebook tag?
Same thing, Curtis E Bryant, or my Twitter or Instagram, everything's at CurtBeasy.
Okay. So you can go to at CurtBeasy, or again, you can hit me up on mine. You can hit us up on EMBC TV network, and Hurricane will have it featured on his. So we'll put the information up about the movie, and go ahead and connect to my brother. He's always got interesting things coming up on his social media, and connect to us. We want you to tell us what you like about the show, what you don't like, what you want more of. Connect to us, like us, and by all means, please leave comments and please share it with your friends. So you have been listening to Chatters That Matter. Let's talk about it. I'm your show host, Dr. Cheryl Bryant Bruce, MD, the Celebrity Doc, and my co-host is Hisham Elamati, Hurricane H. And our featured guest tonight has been none other than my brother, Curtis Bryant, Las Vegas firefighter, Inman actor. And again, he is a rapper extraordinaire there in the Las Vegas area. Watch this again if you get a chance, and soak in those safety tips, because those are going to be very important for the
Please,
holiday
everyone
season.
having a safe and happy holiday. Merry Christmas, and have a great and prosperous upcoming new year.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting us. Of course, we'll be on the air all the way until the end of the new year. But if you should happen to not join us before the new year, as Curt said, we want you to have a happy and prosperous new year, and we want you to have wonderful holidays. Even though this is a holiday show, these tips, these safety tips, fire tips, are applicable all throughout the year. And this will be an evergreen show that you can find on YouTube. The recordings will be on Spotify, on the radio, and all of the numerous other places you can find this show. But revisit them, remind yourselves of the tips, because above all, you do want to stay safe. And he has delivered some great nuggets of fire safety here. So again, thank you for joining us, and have wonderful holidays. You're listening to Chatters That Matters. Let's talk about it.